Let's talk about. I have ranked right now on mine as the number one coming out, and it's going to be Will Anderson.
Okay.
I know you don't like this.
I don't hate it.
I know. It's just you think there's someone that could potentially be better than him coming
Slightly.
into the NFL.
It's a 1A, 1B for me.
Yeah.
It's very close.
So I got Will Anderson at 1. Wheels, I know you've watched a good amount of film on Will Anderson. I just think on a top defense, the guy is just NFL ready. It reminds me of Aiden Hutchinson coming out. He can do just about everything.
He's very well polished coming out.
Yeah. I think the only negatives that I saw on him, which Johnny has them, but...
he struggles when O-line gets inside his pads.
Yeah.
And at the initial point of initial attack.
So that's more of, I feel like he just needs to work a little bit on his hand fighting inside to knock those off. He needs to get strong arm, knock those off, which you can work on in the weight room. You can work on in practice. So that's something that you can teach.
But the crazy thing is that he's in the 93rd percentile with his arm span. So he shouldn't be getting people inside.
No. What happens is, like, let's just say he rushes off the edge, and when that outside lineman or that tackle gets up under his chest pads, he struggles getting separation.
But he shouldn't have that issue with that span alone. He should be attacking.
So if he attacks far out, that's the point.
Right.
Is he won't have that issue.
But
it doesn't always happen that way.
That's a great analogy there. Or not an analogy. It's a good example. If you bring your arm straight out, that's how he should be tackling with how big his arm span is. I mean, you shouldn't allow a guy to get inside you with how long you make yourself. Right. So, I mean, that's one thing you need to work on. I really like him. I mean, I think he's an edge-to-edge defender. He's quick. He's a textbook edge or DN when you look at the guy. I mean, there's no better guy other than one guy that I like, which is Tyree Wilson. We'll talk about him.
We'll talk about him next.
I like Will Anderson a lot. It's like I said, it's a 1A, 1B for me. the dude, like you said, he's played in a pro level. He's NFL ready. He's polished. He's a step in day one, and he's going to make an impact. There's no doubt about that at all.
I agree. So I don't think you can really, if this is who you need to pick in the top 10, I think he's ready to go for you. I think also if you keep in mind, depending on where you're going to play Will Anderson, like if you're going to push him towards the outside all the time, like on the right side, I think he'll excel. Sometimes on the left side, I don't think he excels.
Do you think he's a 4-3, 3-4?
Well, no, I think he can play either. I just think the only issue that I see is he can't bend like a Myles Garrett.
Yeah, he doesn't have.
So he's a little stiffer in the hips when it comes to that.
He doesn't have great lower body flexibility.
Yeah.
Which, at times, that's a bad thing, because, like you said, that's where he may get into trouble getting inside, and he can't get out of that block inside.
Right.
But he's got a nasty spin move, and it's just not one spin move. He's got an array of different, second steps to get past the line, create a gap, get to the quarterback, or even the pocket. He plays the ball. He doesn't play the man.
And that's what he excels at.
Which is really good.
Move. Like he's got the best spin move.
Yeah, he 100%. He has the best spin move in the class from what I saw. I mean, he got beat by some guys. I mean, from Tennessee, he got beat by Paris Johnson, or not Paris Johnson. I'm sorry. Who was the guy? Derek Jones, I think.
Broderick Jones.
Bro Derek.
That's twice you've said that, Derek Jones.
I'm sorry. I think that's how they pronounce or say his name is Broderick. But at the end of the day, even the best guy in the league is going to get beat.
Yeah,
I mean, Tom Brady got beat in Super Bowl.
It's about what happens after you get beat.
It's can you recover? Are you in your own head saying, okay, that's just, he shakes it off. The guy shakes it off. He's ready for the next play. It's a new play. It's a new slate. And that's what's going to make you great at the next level, is forgetting what happened last play and just restarting. That's exactly what you want in edge. That's exactly what you want in almost all of these positions, is you're not sitting there worried about what happened last play. You're ready for what's going to happen next. And he is the stout D-end edge, whatever you want to call him, coming out for me. I mean, he's number 2, but it's not by much. I mean, it's a paper-thin decision for me, honestly.
Right, I agree. So let's jump into that second guy, Johnny. I know you're doing some stuff. Let's jump into Tyree Wilson and see what we got going on there. Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. This is your other guy here, Wheels.
Yeah, he's my number 1, like I said.
Explain to me why you think he's your one over Will Anderson.
So he's got a huge arm span. He's very fast off the line, gets inside his man, and doesn't...
I didn't realize his arm span was that long.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, a lot of the guys on the list are like 90%.
Yeah,
the lowest is like 92.
Yeah, he's a great tackler.
And that's what makes them edge guys.
Yeah.
That's, the long arm span, because if you can get out and reach, and you know how to use the arm length to your advantage, you will be better in that situation.
Well, that's the difference between that's the difference between D-end or edge and defense interior. Usually the guys with the defense interior, they're like guards on the offensive side. They have a little bit shorter arm span, but like left tackles. Left tackles are like edges. I mean, the longer the arm span, the more success you're going to have on the outside. There's a reason why there's measurements for all these positions. It's just not to have it out there. I mean, height.
Yeah, measurements do matter. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
There is some reasoning for those measurements.
Exactly. Yep. But going back to Tyree Wilson, he's another guy that is an edge defender in my opinion. He can pursue outside. He can go in coverage every now and again if he needs to be, but he's another guy that plays off the ball. He doesn't play the man. He doesn't get himself into situations that are going to hurt his team or allow them to get a bad first down that's going to extend the drive, just like Will Anderson. The guy, he's a smart, NFL-ready, day one polished edge coming out. I mean, there's another guy who's going in the top 10, in my opinion.
Right.
I think 3 of these guys we may talk about may go in the top 10. What say you?
3. Since the issues with Anthony Richardson's and Will Levis's pro days didn't go very well, I think it's very easy for more defense to go higher now.
This is probably one of the biggest defensive drafts we have had in the last 5 years, you would have to say. A lot of it's been offensive. Last couple has been wide receiver, offensive line. Quarterback was a few years ago when Justin Herbert, Josh Allen was taken. I mean, Josh Allen's class he's really the only guy other than Lamar Jackson that has produced. But other than that, I mean,
So how do you feel with Tyree Wilson's pad levels? Because I saw that was one of his negatives that I wrote
where
down.
he sets up.
Yeah, he struggles getting low, like staying low all the time. He's sometimes
He's
a little
more
too
like
high.
he's a stiffer guy, like kind of like Will Anderson. He gets up high and he kind of stands straight up. That's something you can teach. You can, I think, teach that out. But even with him doing that, he was still a top producer on his team.
And how about he struggles to seal the outside on the run?
I think that's just because of speed. He's got a 4.87, so he's not the fastest edge.
He just doesn't get out there.
But he doesn't get out there. But he's fast off the line. I think if he gets some help on the other side of the edge, he could definitely be a top.
I think all of his intangibles, or not his intangibles.
There's always
I think all of his
times.
negatives. I think his negatives personally are coachable.
Yeah,
I think
there's nothing
pursuit and angles, because he uses his physicality, and that's what you kind of want as an edge. But the pursuit that he needs to figure out and his angles, I think those are two things that he needs to work on.
So now a lot of people are not going to like this take, but if you watched Myles Garrett coming out, he was kind of a guy who he was really aggressive. He had a lot of offsides calls and all that. I mean, that Tyree Wilson is kind of that. I'm not comparing him at all to Myles Garrett, but he's kind of the same type of prospect in my opinion. He's another guy who's really just aggressive, and the penalties can stack up at times. But do you want a guy who's aggressive, or you want a guy who's not aggressive, who's just, there?
Right.
Like, I mean, a Jadeveon Clowney who plays more of a run stopper rather than a pass rusher.
That's my daughter.
I was just gonna say.
It's not pterodactyl, I swear.
No, it sounded like a door
But
creaking open.
what did you like about Tyree?
Motor.
So,
He just plays to the whistle, and he's so physical.
Yeah,
He's a
so
very physical guy,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the best aspect of an edge. If a guy is if a guy is unwilling to continue to push forward, I don't want him as an edge.
Yeah.
I want him as like a D tackle, someone's going to
Yeah.
contain. But if
And-
this guy is going to pursue, I mean, I love it. I think these guys can both be top 10 picks very easily.
Yeah.
Especially who's picking in the top 10. There's a lot of defensive needs in the top 10.
Yeah.
When you look at the Raiders and then you look at the Arizona Cardinals, I think both these teams need really good D guys.
Yeah. I think you'd see Tyree going to the Cardinals. That's who I had them picking. They're
Right.
not, I mean,
Well, I mean, it also depends on like if you got like are these guys trading back, like a lot of this does kind of matter a little bit. But let's go into that third one. I know you and I pretty much, like you said, the Tyree Wilson. This is one of those drafts where everybody hypes up one guy, and then closer to the draft, the other guy starts to step up a little bit.
Yeah.
And Tyree is now getting to that point where, like you said, it's almost
like
1A,
paper
1B.
thin. Yeah, it's paper thin,
It's
in my
people are
opinion.
like, I don't know, do I want the physical? This is the Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson argument last year.
Exactly.
Do I want the
exactly that.
physical, polished athlete, or do I want the guy that's going to produce? And that's why I'll take Will Anderson,
'Cause he's
because
polished.
Will Anderson is so polished,
Yeah.
whereas I think Tyree needs a little bit of coaching, and he's going to be that over pursuit guy. He's
Yeah.
going to make some mistakes.
Which I completely agree with. It's there. If you watch the film, it is there. He over pursues. He
Right.
doesn't seal up the edge like you said. So I just have him one because that's who I view. That's who I would take.
Well, and I
but
think now
it
it's
just
funny that
depends.
you say that, because if I were to go look this year in 2023 at Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau, I think Kayvon Thibodeau has the leap,
Yeah.
and he can be better now than Aiden Hutchinson, because I think Aiden Hutchinson's kind of already at his ceiling. The
Yeah.
only thing you can do is just free up Aiden Hutchinson and give him more one-on-ones,
Yeah.
and that gives him the pursuit to the quarterback. Whereas
It makes his job a little bit easier.
Kayvon has so much more growth because he was purely athletic,
He has a
coming
lot
out
of
and raw.
tenacity.
Yeah. So I just, that's kind of what I see, and I think that's what you're
Yeah.
seeing, is that in the second year, that maybe Tyree is going to be a better prospect.
Yeah, the second year is definitely the viewing year for a lot of these guys. I mean, I know they always say sophomore slump, but that's
But
here
if
nor
you
there.
but
It's
if you
just-
want an impact day one guy, that's why I think that Will
Yeah.
Anderson.
But I
is a
agree.
little
Yeah,
higher.
yeah. Will Anderson, he is an impact day one. He's not as gambly. He doesn't do as he's not as
Let's go to our boys. One of his favorite guys. It's not his top five. It's not his top two, but Lucas Van Ness. This is one of Steve's favorite guys. He
Yeah.
loves this kid coming out of Iowa. Because I know you watched a little bit of film on him. What do you think of Lucas here?
So my biggest thing about Luke Van Ness is his instincts take over coming over the edge. He constantly makes an impact, whether it's in the pass or run. He's able to get inside and stop the run. close the gap quickly, get to the quarterback. Another guy who plays the ball, a very high football IQ, drives through his man constantly. He's got a high motor. He doesn't quit. He's another guy who's, I think he's polished, and I believe he was a top tackler, the top sack leader for his team the last 2 years.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
I believe he's a top tackler too. He has got this is a guy that has a really good lower body flexibility that the other two guys we talked about did not. So he's able, to free up himself on a block if he gets hit inside. And he's another guy with a nasty spin move. It's just not one spin move. It's an array of different spin moves. I mean, he's three. He's up there with all those guys, in my opinion.
Johnny, if you scroll down, there's an asterisk on the 2021-2022 season. It probably explains the asterisk.
And he's a guy who chips off a block easily, and he likes contact. He's another guy who loves contact.
He's one of those guys, and I don't know how to explain this, but when he chips, then he turns.
Yeah, he
chips underneath, and then he can turn, and he's one of those guys that can get around that edge very well.
The asterisk indicates bowl status. So these stats the past 2 years also include bowl games.
Okay. So and that's what I see out of Lucas Van Ness is that he's a guy that can peel that edge.
Yeah, he
really
plays better
hard.
off that chip. It's definitely something that.
And so when you look at a guy, and I think that's something that the best in the NFL right now is Myles Garrett at that.
Yeah.
And I think every guy that comes out of college is trying to merge and make their game look like Myles Garrett when they're trying to peel that edge. So a lot of these guys are trying to get underneath those linemen, so when they chip up in, they're going underneath to get wide.
Because the old edge, the old D ends where you get through the man. You push through him. You get him on his back heels and you push through him, which we're going to talk about later in this draft, or later in these top guys possibly. Some of these guys do not play like that. They don't get underneath. They more push their guy.
They're bull rushers. They're more I got to go through the guy.
Exactly.
And it sucks because in the NFL it's a lot harder than it is in college.
Yeah.
Because you're going against 330-pound linemen.
Yeah.
You're not going against 285-pound guys that are only 30, 40 more pounds than you. So, and you're stronger than them. Yeah. So it's a lot harder in the NFL to succeed at a bull rush unless you are a top tier talent.
Yeah.
So, like Aaron Donald is very good for what he does. That's the reason why Aaron Donald is so good. And I think Aaron Donald's build, Johnny, I don't know if you can look this up. I think Aaron Donald's build is like 6'3", 265, 270. Like, he is ridiculous size. So when you look at his ability, that's why he succeeds at the bull rush.
And he's an interior too. I mean, and he can play.
He plays all over the line. All over the line.
Which some of these guys at this edge position can do. I feel like a lot of these positions coming in, outside linebacker, D back, a lot of these guys are becoming.
Well, I think a lot of these guys coming out of the. Go ahead, John.
He's 6'1", 280.
Yeah, 6'1", 280. That is a bowling ball of a man.
Yeah.
Holy cow! I didn't know he was that. I mean, that's not short, but he's
strong.
shorter.
He is strong.
280s.
Yeah.
Whatever. That is
yeah.
And there's nobody in this draft coming out that's looking like that.
No, not at all.
Not 6'1", 285 coming into the league with a 32 5/8 inch arm span and a 9 7/8 hands.
Small hands mean strong hands a lot of times. So if you have under 10-inch hands and you are a D lineman, a lot of times that's strength in the pads.
It's grip strength.
Yep.
Right.
So, all right, let's go to the next guy. And I know I have it here. My daughter is so happy upstairs. That's a happy scream. Let's go into Carl Brooks.
So Carl Brooks is a guy not a lot of you may have heard about. He's out of Bowling Green.
I have Myles Murphy above Carl Brooks. You have Carl Brooks, I think,
it's another
at 4.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, I watched a lot of film on this guy coming out of Bowling Green.
Yeah, he was literally like, I think if you looked at Draft Buzz, he was like, what, 18th?
Yeah, he's lower on that, which I don't understand. I don't understand that, which, I mean, I think they like being safe.
And that's fine.
We're not about them. We like going out about guys.
I kind of have, so I have Carl Brooks at 5. For some reason, I do have him up on my list. But you've got him at 4.
Yeah.
I personally, I could.
The dude's
these
huge.
next. So here's the thing. These next 5 guys, I could probably swap them in and out.
Yeah.
Carl Brooks, Myles Murphy, Isaiah Foskey, Zach Harrison, B.J. Ojolari. I can bounce these guys around.
Yeah, going
And
back.
it depends on what you need for the position,
Yeah.
whether it's a 4-3, a 3-4, and if you do have depth in that position,
Yeah.
so who's behind them and who's in front of them.
Yeah.
So
So-
go ahead. Why don't you talk about Carl Brooks, because you're the one that's hyped up on this
Part
guy.
of the reason I have Carl Brooks as high as I do is he's kind of a guy who can play anywhere on that D-line. He can play on the edge. He can play on the defensive tier. At 300 pounds, yeah.
Holy
He can
Sorry.
he runs pretty well in coverage at times at 300 pounds. It's surprising. The dude is a monster. And it's just not the weight and the height. It's just not as measurable as I like about him. The dude he's nasty. He gets through his man. He's more of a bull rushing guy.
He's probably
He's
going to
not
be. He's probably going to be more of an interior on a 4-3.
Yeah. So that's what I have on him. Is he's more of an interior guy at 4-3, but 3-4 you're going to play more edge.
Right, and it's going to be
So-
more of a contain. Like you're not going to get
Yeah.
the quarterback. So, but he probably will, depending on the double teams, because he's capable of taking on double teams.
He's another guy he's solid off a chip block. He gets inside. He has very good ball rush tenacity there.
Ball rush.
Ball rush tenacity.
Ball rush.
I mean, all these guys, I know you're going to get sick of me saying it, but another guy who doesn't take many chances. He plays the ball, not the man. Doesn't over pursue. He doesn't put himself in situations where it's going to hurt his team overall, giving them a bad first down, letting drives go down. He gets inside. He's able to hit a gap with the speed. At 300 pounds, the guy's pretty damn quick.
Yeah, I mean he's a force to reckon with.
Yeah, he is
size.
definitely a force to reckon with, and I like him. I mean, he's up there for me. I would love for you guys to watch him.
Well, the funny part about that is so where you have him ranked, he's probably a second round guy. He's not a first round guy.
Yeah, he's late first, early second for me.
It
just depends who wants him.
He's not going to go in the first.
No,
just because where everybody else sees him, he's not
Yes.
going to go in the first. But what you're saying is he's got the ability to put up first round stats.
Yeah, so someone's going to
ranking
get...
wise.
Yeah.
So
He
someone's going to
hasn't-
get a steal is
Right.
what Wheels is saying.
He hasn't hit his ceiling yet, and I don't know what his ceiling is, but
How old was he?
How old?
Chinese got it on the graphic. 22.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah, a lot of
produced
them.
every year. Every single year, he's done better and better and better. I mean, he's just taken that team. And yeah, Bowling Green, coming out of a MAC, I think that's a MAC school.
Yeah, I think it's
So,
Mid-Atlantic.
I mean, that may hurt is why people are putting him kind of low is you're not playing great top competition, but you also don't have a great defense behind you. You're kind of that guy on your team that's, producing, and he has.
Mac. Yeah.
So the issue right there, that's his issue.
Where he missed the year.
5 seasons.
Yeah.
That's an issue. So he's a senior.
He
I think
missed-
a lot of these guys that we have on this list are 3-year or 4-year players.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to watch in that Senior Bowl, but there wasn't a lot of production that we watched because we watched that Senior Bowl. But yeah, it's a very heavily senior draft this year.
Let's get on to the next guy. This guy, I know that
I like him a lot
Steve is
still.
so hyped on him. It's Miles Murphy, and Miles Murphy is probably a first round guy. This is one of your guys that you think is going to get taken to the top 10.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny because we have Van Ness and Carl Brooks a little higher than Miles Murphy, but Miles Murphy, I just think his build, his structure, what they want in a guy, this is it.
So you think he's a prototypical another guy ready
I think
day
he's
one?
an edge. He's a prototypical edge build. He could put on a little weight, honestly, but I think for where he's at,
He's a good-
super fast,
good structure.
flexible. My only cons on him is that sometimes his pad levels are an issue, and he's tight in the hips.
Yeah.
So shiftiness on an edge. I don't know if I'm too upset. And I will tell you, if you watch a lot of these guys, some guys can only bend one way because they've been doing it for so long. That's why they're only good on one side.
It's like riding a bike. It's just one way.
There's a reason Myles Garrett doesn't normally play on the opposite side of the line because he's so extremely good and flexible on the right side of the line at attacking. That's where they leave.
Yeah, that's where he gets inside, and it's a strong suit. You're going to play your player to the strong suit. Miles Murphy is another guy who's a nasty first step. Great off the ball speed. He's an athletic freak of a guy. All these guys coming out. I mean, he's just a freak. I mean, he's got all the measurables. He's got the speed. He's got the weight. Like you said, he could put on some weight, but is it needed? No. I mean, he's another guy who's going to produce day one. So
I think 6'4", if he were 275, 280, I think, and even if he ran a 4.65, that would be outstanding.
Yeah, most of these guys
Right.
are going to put on some muscle.
Right now he runs
you're
a
gonna put on
4.57,
muscle.
so that's pretty damn good for 268 pounds of
Yeah.
4.57. Miles Murphy. So fit wise, either 3.4 or 4.3. Like he just that good, can play anywhere.
I think so. Yeah. There's a guy we're going to talk about here soon that
Can he play in coverage? So could he contain and drop off the line and play it in the flat?
So from what I saw at points, he can. But the farther you put him out, obviously, with any other guy, the bigger the risk is. Over the middle he can play. He can take maybe a running back, follow him a little bit, take a tight end, go over the middle until he gets up over to the safety or maybe gets another.
I'm just
zone
assuming with
coverage.
his speed, you could probably put him on a tight end on the edge.
You can, 100%. You can put him as a tight end on the edge, or he can
Shade.
spy running back. He's another guy that you're going to use kind of as a quarterback spy. Get inside. So I mean, there may
I would
be
love
a team.
spy this size.
That,
That's a big ass spy.
but I'm serious. There may be a team that we need a guy that can play multiple. Can play in coverage, can get inside, can spy a quarterback with how quick he is. This may be the guy. He may be taken. He may be the second edge taken. Who knows? I mean, it's all fitment. We don't know.
He's not going to be the second edge taken.
No, but
because like we just said, Will
fitment-wise.
Anderson and Tyree Wilson are 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Can he get taken in the first round? I believe so. I mean, outside of Jalen Carter, I think it's Miles Murphy, right?
Which the latest rumor is that there's many teams taking Jalen Carter off their board.
Because of what happened with the
Don't
pro day.
believe.
I don't
Don't
know
believe that.
And this was before the April Fool.
Don't believe
It's all-
that smoke.
So it's all smoke and mirrors because if you remember a couple years ago with the Niners, they loved Mac Jones. That's all they talked about. And then they go and take Trey Lance and they
Yep.
get 3 first-round picks. So
Don't believe that smoke.
it's all smoke and mirrors.
Don't
just
believe
like,
that smoke.
Just like with a Mitch Trubisky. They didn't talk to Mitch Trubisky publicly stated at all before Chicago drafted him. They drafted him first overall. So, I mean, second overall, I think
Yeah,
it was.
second.
'Cause
Whatever
we-
it was
second
like
'cause
one of
we-
the largest
We took
busts.
Miles that year.
Right.
It was second. So, I mean, don't believe everything you read in the media with sports like this because it's all just to create
Smoke
talk.
screens.
Yeah, it's a smoke screen.
It's just so you think one thing and they're gonna do another.
Yeah, like
they're hoping to God.
CJ Stroud is going to the Panthers. There is no way they're not taking
The
CJ Stroud.
teams that are the best at this are the teams that shut the hell up. So like you don't know what the Steelers ever going to do.
The Patriots,
because the
you don't know
Steelers
what
don't
they're
open
gonna
their
do.
mouth. The
Like
Patriots,
Belichick.
Exactly,
Even
yeah.
the Ravens don't usually open their mouth. Like we
The
didn't know the
Saints-
Ravens were going to trade Marquise Brown last year.
The Saints
So-
are very good about that too.
So, yeah. So just these
And
teams that, and it's because you know why a lot of these teams don't have needs. They have holes to fill, but they don't have needs.
But you notice the thing about that is
It's
those
depth.
teams that aren't out there talking are usually consistently good year after year after
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
Versus
yeah.
teams that like the Browns, okay, there's a lot of talking, and that's just an example. They're not good year after year after year.
And it's
mean-
funny because I predicted exactly who the Browns were going after last year. Or 2 years ago. I knew they were going JOK.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Like I was ecstatic they did it.
I was hoping we would take Mika, but there was no way we were trading up back that far.
Micah?
I mean, or Micah Hyde, yeah, Micah, whatever.
What is with you guys and Micah Hyde?
I like him
No,
a lot.
Micah Parsons.
Not Micah Hyde, yeah, Micah Parsons, not Micah. I'm thinking of.
I would have
Bills.
loved to get Micah, but he was like 9th overall, 9th
I
or
was just
11th.
gonna say.
Yeah, like I said, there was no
We
way.
weren't up there. That
It
was the year we went to the
Dallas.
That was the year
No,
we went to the
that-
playoffs.
I think they were like 16.
That was the year we went to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it was
Playoffs.
taken 16.
Playoffs.
All right, so let's move on to the next one. This one is.
I know you like him. I think.
Well,
it's-
Steve has been like up this dude's butthole since since before talking football like this year. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame. I mean, he has been all about Isaiah Foskey. I don't even know if I spelled his name
So
right.
this is a guy who I view as a bull rusher. He's more of a bowling ball type of guy. He's a bull rusher. He gets off the line with speed. He has a great core of strength, upper and lower body flexibility, upper and lower body. I mean, the biggest thing with him is he over pursues at times that I see, and he gets a little too risky at times. So that's why I have him 6th. He has good football IQ. He could definitely increase it.
Well, the thing with him that I found as a huge positive, and this is one of the things, just being a Browns fan, when I see a player that I like the most, is when I see a player who's in every play.
Yeah,
and when you see this guy on the field, it seems to be he's around every play being made.
Yeah,
he's
which is
all
very
over the
good.
field, which is also bad too because sometimes you play out of position. So know your role, shut your hole is a kind of deal that some of these players need to do. But he is one of those guys that just is an impact player. He's all over the field.
Yeah, and
He's on a great defense like Notre Dame. So
no, and that's so where I come from, where he's a little bit risky, is he over pursues. You know, he gets himself into some situations, like KJ said, where he puts himself out of position, which then again can hurt his team. Or I mean, he's good in coverage. It's not the greatest. What was his 40 speed again, Johnny?
So, and real quick,
4.58. That's
Micah
quick
went
official.
Micah went 12th overall.
Okay.
And JOK went 52nd.
I said 11th. Well, JOK was a second rounder.
Well, right, but I'm just saying
But
the
I'm saying
value.
the Browns were so predictable at what they did.
Because you were
We
drafting,
knew their second round.
Because you were
pick.
drafting a guy to stop Lamar.
Well,
Yeah.
so here's my thing with that though is they were like it was JOK and Micah were 1A 1B.
Yeah.
And there's 40 different picks.
Whoa, who said that?
There's been a lot of comparison when they were
JOK
when
was
they were
supposed-
coming out that it was really similar.
JOK was
at
supposed
the
to be a
top.
first round pick.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
I didn't mean to
No,
walk-
no, you're
talk over
fine.
you. But he had
No.
that heart. They said he had that heart issue, which
Yeah.
he said wasn't true, and the Browns deeply went into physicals and talked to multiple doctors to make sure and shored up that it wasn't an issue before they drafted him. He was supposed to be a first round pick, but he dropped out because of that, which helped. Sadly, hurt him, but helped the Browns. But you know, it seems
Like
that he's a
value
good.
thing.
Yeah, he's fitting well. I think you know.
It just
he's-
sucked with his injury.
You ain't
last year.
shitting.
Yeah.
I did not know he was 1A 1B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Again,
I just looked at NFL Draft Buzz and it's Micah Parsons,
Yeah.
JOK, Zaven Collins, Nick Bolton, and Joseph Asai.
Yeah. 40 picks difference.
And Azeez Ojulari, who is, by the way, BJ Ojulari's.
Is it his brother?
I don't know if it's brother or his cousin. Hold on.
A lot of these
younger
guys,
brother.
I
So
think, yeah,
BJ is
brother.
the younger brother of Azeez.
They both played at LSU, right?
I think so.
Yes. Ojulari is LSU. I can't remember on his brother though.
I can tell you right now, I'm on Azeez right here. I'm pretty sure it was LSU though. Georgia.
Oh.
Okay.
I lied.
So another guy. So we're going back to Foskey real quick. His change of direction is really good. He's got good hands, able to fight off a block and spin out. I had him going first, but I think he's going to be an early second for me.
Who?
Foskey.
Foskey. He's a late first, early second for me. It's another fitment issue.
Sorry, that's
I know you don't like that. I know you like him.
no. It's a JOK thing. I think
Yeah.
I think you get so much value in the second if
Yeah.
you're getting him in the second. I think he's a first round capable, and I think when you get guys that have the drive that Foskey had on the field, like
Yeah.
it just
The guy is he's an animal.
high motors, which I think everybody in the top 10 have.
Yeah,
in
you
this.
have to.
It's
I
high
mean-
motor defensive ends. I think anybody who can play to the whistle is a first round pick at this position because your motor matters.
Are you going to get tired after three?
The
or
only
four
difference
plays?
between
Like,
one
no.
person and the other is pursuit and sealing the edge.
Yeah.
And I think that's
And
what,
maybe some coverage, but that's tricky.
and to be honest, unless you're playing in the outside linebacker position, I don't need you for coverage.
there is a guy that we're going to talk about, I believe, here soon.
I don't
as an
think you
outside
have.
linebacker.
I don't think you have anybody as an outside linebacker.
I view Nolan Smith
in your
as more
top
of an
10.
I view Nolan Smith more of an outside
Oh,
linebacker.
do you? Okay. So let's go to the next guy. Let's go to Zach Harrison. I was talking to you guys about him because I think you guys had him underrated. I talked to
Yeah, till I saw him, I really didn't.
because I told you to go out and look.
Yeah,
I go, hey guys, go look at Zach Harrison, come out of Ohio State. I know that there's not a lot of big Ohio State edges that have been out recently that have come. I was actually talking to Ryan about this. If you look at like the last 10-year drafts, I think there's 2 DNs that have come out of Ohio State between rounds 3 and 5.
And 3 and 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's just between those rounds. And I told him, well, what about the Bosas? And what about, like, he's like, talking not a first round pick, man.
Yeah,
I
like
was
Chase
like,
Young, I mean,
Well, yeah, I was like Chase Young, Bosa. I was like, he's like, those are top 10 picks. Like, he goes, but, and
I
then
believe, yeah.
depth wise, he goes, how many have come out? And I can't remember who they were, but there were 2. And he's like, all right, okay, so they do have some. And I'm like, Zach Harrison, I think, is a guy that there's production.
Oh yeah,
he is very capable on the field of what he's been doing.
He's a second-round pick in my opinion. I mean, the dude's an athletic freak with his size and
mid to
speed.
late second.
Yeah,
and I think
that's what I have, late second. I usually put my lower first. I like where I see him bottom the barrel going is late second.
Yeah, somewhere around that 58 to 65 mark, I can see.
And he can play inside, outside, depends on the scheme. If you're going to run a 4-3, 3-4, he's fits anywhere on that edge, anywhere on that line. He can play outside linebacker if need be, but he shines specifically in that edge position. So you're drafting him to play him as a D end.
Right.
You're not drafting him as an outside linebacker.
Or an interior lineman. He can play edge in the 3-4. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's not where I would have him. I would have him in a 4-3 as the edge.
Yeah. And he's another guy that can stop the run.
Right.
He's got some Clowney trickled in with him, physicality wise.
And what's funny is I think one of the reasons that we're so ecstatic when an edge can stop the run is because we just don't. As Browns fans, we don't know what it feels like. In the last 10 years, I think we've probably been bottom 10 in run defense.
Which is just insane with who we've drafted. But the thing is we've always drafted secondary very high, and I don't understand it because you can get some secondary pick like we saw last year with Martin Emerson. You can get these guys later. They may not shine day one, but you can polish them up in the offseason. That's what it's all about. That's what the draft's about. Take some value picks. Take some risks later in the draft. Take who you need. Which, I mean, we always don't need corner, yet we always seem to, draft it because we take these smaller corners like Denzel Ward. I would love to get a guy like Zach Harrison in the second round, but obviously we don't have a second-round pick now. But there's some guys that we're talking about that we could probably get in the third, but there's value all throughout this draft defensive-wise. I mean, from D-end to outside linebacker to defensive tackle to safety to D-back. I mean, there's value all over the place, even in quarterback with Hendon Hooker. Depends where you draft them.
I agree. I mean,
this is a very the drafts year after year are becoming more. They're filling up more with just good value picks. The third round pick now is that's a top pick in my. I mean, third round pick's a good pick.
The third round pick is the shoot for the stars pick.
Yeah, it's a fringe. It's a fringe.
That's the guy where like your first round and your second round are guys like if they don't start, they're considered busts.
Yeah,
like those are guys that you need to impact day one. If not, they're busts. Now, you have the second round or the third round pick, and that is where, and Ryan loves to talk about it this way, because that is where like you kind of shoot for the stars and see what the hell happens. Yep. And a lot of these, like, if you don't hit here, you won't hear about it.
No, it's not going to hurt you.
If you hit here, you're going to hear about it.
Well, I mean, look at what Detroit did with James Houston. They took him in the 6th round. And nobody's talking about him and being one of the greatest picks. The dude was an 80.1 PFF overall this year.
You finally found his name.
Yeah, I finally found his name. I did a lot of research on this guy.
That's the other D end opposite of Aiden Hutchinson.
Not Justin Houston, James Houston. But no, yeah,
I just thought it's funny because you're like that other guy in Detroit. You told me they drafted a guy in like the 6th, 7th round. I was like, yeah.
And nobody's talking about him. I'm watching videos on YouTube. I'm reading articles, and nobody's talking about the value.
He was a stud for that.
But yeah, nobody's talking about the value pick. This 6th round pick, the guy's produced day one. I mean, if he was
he's actually had better production than Kayvon Thibodeau, who was drafted in the first round.
But the problem is that comes back to not what you want to hear. I know you don't like
he was third overall. I think
it's name.
But I think he was dealing with injuries and lingering issues all year compared to
right. But my point is, a guy drafted in the 6th round who you don't have to pay right now, which means you're going to get production for at least 3 years out of him for very, very cheap.
Well, is it 3 years or
3?
So 3 total. So you have 2 more years.
3 plus you can.
Oh, really?
Plus you can offer a 4th.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 2 more years, and then you can offer the third.
Yeah, the first round is the only round that you can offer.
You get the 5th-year option, which is the reason why there is a possibility that someone might trade back into the first to get Hendon Hooker.
That's why I have
because
a team
if
going
Hendon Hooker
back
is valued at that
because
point,
it's offsetting the first year.
Yeah, you're not
losing him the first year, and you get that extra year on him. So if he is a stud, he's there.
So then, who would you think would take him in the late first?
We can go over that later. There's like 6 teams that I can see reaching back up, and one of them is currently trying to trade a quarterback.
Okay, I'm
what,
happy
Baltimore
I'm not the
or
only
Green
one
Bay?
We'll talk about it.
Stay
tuned.
There's a few.
Yeah. Stay tuned. We're gonna leave it a cliffhanger.
There's a few. So let's go to the next one. BJ Ojulari. This is our 8. I love BJ, and I think.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I think when you, I think when you look at there's something about bloodlines, man. When a family is made to play
I
football,
mean, the Watts,
yeah,
Bosa's.
I wouldn't. I just take him. Just take him.
take
Like
him.
he's good enough. He's produced at LSU. I think he's one of those guys that he's got the speed off the edge.
He fits all the he fits the measurables. He fits everything that you want in a guy. He's another guy. I mean, all these guys that were.
Well, and he's also good
top
from
10.
chasing down from behind.
Yes.
So like
pursuit.
his
Great
pursuit,
pursuit.
yeah,
Great
his pursuit is very good. So that's another reason why I like Ojulari. Is there anything that was stood out to you outside of the pursuit? Because obviously I took that from you.
He's a textbook edge rusher. At times he can get stagnant with his feet and stop moving them. He stands straight up at times, which
we have that issue. I think that's a con for I think a bunch of these guys, and I think
that
that's
can be teached
coachable.
out. He's another guy that puts his head down, which I really don't like.
I don't like that from a DN.
But that's another thing you can teach out. A lot of these, if it's not mentally, I'm fine with it. You know, I'll put him at my 8. There's a reason because, like you said, he's got all the tenacity. He's got the
the
speed,
intangibles. He got the things that aren't on the field, but some of the things that are on the field that we need to be coached out of.
He's smart. The dude.
And I don't know. Has there been a lot of DNs that have come out of LSU? Because it could be a coaching thing.
I honestly don't know.
I don't think
LSU,
so.
I don't think they're more known for secondary wide receiver.
That's what I thought.
So they had JJ, you had Jarvis, you had Odell
and
Beckham.
I guess quarterback. We can say
They had
that.
Joe Burrow. That's about what,
One
who else?
quarterback.
Who else? But secondary, you have had some guys come out.
Technically graduated from Ohio State.
The Browns love taking secondary from LSU because they're made of glass.
Let's go an Ojulari to me value. He's going to be a late second round guy.
Yep, that's where I have him.
He's going to be such value, especially with a good coaching staff.
He's another guy who doesn't play well in coverage. He is like you said, a prototypical textbook D end. He can stop the run, good against the counter. That's what I like about him. He
bounces off the block very well.
He bounces off the block well. He's good about watching, RPOs. Let's see if it's a runner, pass. He's smart about watching that. Another guy who watches the ball. All these top 10 guys do that very well. There's not a guy I'm going to put in here who's, mainly, okay, I'm just going after the quarterback, and then the running back already has it. He's done for 6 yards by the time he gets there.
So another guy that we can talk about is Nolan Smith. This is the one you were talking about that you see as an outside linebacker.
Just the way he plays, he in my opinion is an outside linebacker. He's got great change of direction. He can play man to man or zone. He's a guy who's good in coverage, able to get off the edge quickly and steal it while spinning out of a block. Has great interior tackling. Another guy who pushes through his man, has good flexibility, lower body. But I just view him the way he played at Georgia, and I know Steve agreed with me on this. I just view him more of an outside linebacker. I think in a 4-3 you're going to play, or a 3-4 you're going to play him as outside.
And I think some of your argument is that he's too reliant on his bull rush.
Yes.
Like he's too much a right at you kind of guy.
Yeah,
he focuses on that.
Slip out.
Right. See, and the other issue here. Go ahead.
But of the ones that we've talked about, he is the lightest and the fastest. So
But that's
with I think the smallest
he's
hands.
too reliant on his bull rush.
Yeah.
He relies on running right at the guy and blowing him up. But the problem is going into the NFL.
Right. Well,
A lot of people aren't going to bounce off you.
And
Right.
speed is
So-
just as fast. There's gonna be guys just as fast.
I'm not
as him.
saying, but I'm just saying he also has the smallest hands, or one of the smallest hands that we are going to talk about.
Yeah, and that's
So
why I
with-
view him more of an outside
But
guy.
still, I think in the shortest hands or arm span that we are talking.
He would be your guy, then I think this is your argument. He's a JOK.
Yes.
He's a guy that you're going to take to play off the line and cover the outsides.
So a spy and
or
outside
even to maybe
coverage.
put that quick outside blitz.
If only he didn't get all the hype that he did after his combine and or pro day, that if the Browns still had the second round pick, whew,
Oh, I would lose it.
JOK
Ooh.
and Nolan Smith.
Him or
No,
Trenton Simpson. I like both those guys.
See,
a
here's my
lot.
thing. I think you guys just the underrated value of signing Walker in Cleveland.
I like Walker.
Well, Walker
It's
There's-
just
I like
underrated.
Walker.
My thing
I
is
like Walker.
I'd rather go get a guy next year, and I want to shore up the secondary or shore up the D tackle area.
But is
Yeah,
Walker
Cleveland.
We're
middle?
taking secondary in the third.
Yeah, is Walker middle or outside linebacker?
Middle.
So
He's the
then is JOK outside or middle as well?
well,
outside.
JOK's
outside because he can play a spy.
so
too. It just depends where you put
JOK
him.
opposite.
We already
Miles
have
Garrett.
another linebacker too, and I can't remember his name right
But I'm
now.
just saying
And then
JOK.
you signed
Taki.
Taki. Yeah.
So I'm just saying
Oh, we
JOK.
signed
No, we didn't sign to Zendejo.
No.
No,
That was an April Fool's joke too.
No, it would not.
But I'm just saying, JOK, opposite of Garrett, you have Walker in the middle, and then you would have Nolan Smith on the same side as Miles, or flip-flop JOK and Miles, or
Tomlinson's in there.
that
now.
would be cool.
You guys got to keep him, and then you got Akaranquo. I think
That's
the signings,
the
signings they made in Cleveland, I think they're very underrated for some people.
Because we're Cleveland.
So
Right.
the other thing is, like, the other thing that I have an issue with Nolan Smith is he's missed time. He's missed a bunch of games, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I think he's missed 8 games over
In 2 years.
Eight
Yeah.
games in 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's missed. That's another thing I didn't talk about is that you got to be there. We've talked about that with somebody else last week. You got to be there to perform. You got to be there to impact. I mean, that's maybe why he may have slipped out of the first round is his injury.
Yeah, he missed at least
Okay, so
That's
3
4
years.
games.
No,
and-
6 games because it's 14.
6 games, and then
Yeah.
2 games, and then 7 games, and
Yeah,
so
he's
from
missed a bunch of games since he's
let's,
been
we
there.
don't
In
even
29
count freshmen. Let's not
2019, he
count.
had 11 games played.
But look at his
Yeah.
sacks. He's not up there in sacks.
Right. 2020, he had 7 games played.
Well, he's a coverage. We just talked. He's a coverage
Yeah,
guy.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's why if you hit more as an
Yeah.
outside linebacker guy, just you read the stats alone and watch the
Actually,
watch
it's funny.
the film. That's where they play him.
It's funny. I actually wrote that he is more adept to an outside
Yeah.
linebacker role. That's funny that I wrote that.
Yeah.
Me and you both have the same thing. So let's just go over. That was our 9, I think.
You want to do some honorable mentions or not?
Well, no. We'll do the last one for you, and it's funny. I don't know. I might have to move yours down because I think you have Brenton Cox at 10.
Let's talk about that when
Let's talk-
Steve's here because Steve really likes him. And
Let's talk Will McDonald because
Yes.
Will McDonald is a guy that everybody has, I think, in their top 5, and we got him right there. I think right around 10. And then another guy an honorable mention, which Nolan Smith was, like we said, an outside linebacker. Drew Sanders is probably the outside linebacker in this draft.
Yes.
And we got him a little slightly lower.
That's
than
another guy that
Nolan
Steve was
Smith.
super high on.
So let's talk about Will McDonald and get into him. What did you like about Will McDonald, and what were like the things that kind of stood out to you?
So his top tier hand placement, able to get off a block, chip off. He is essentially opposite of what we saw with Tyree Wilson with
Okay.
his hands. He has a very strong upper body, which gives him great hand fighting, and a strong lower body with flexibility that is able to get him out of blocks with a spin move. Can play both the end and outside linebacker at times, has speed to hit the gaps, and plays a bit of coverage here and there with tight ends.
It's funny. I when you look at my summary for Will McDonald, I actually kind of put that in the same way. I said he's a violent technician with his hands. But his negatives is that he has an issue of over pursuing. And then this one really bothers me is that he forgets his assignments.
So he plays out of position, is what
So
you're saying.
Cam Newton mentality.
No. Like when I say forgets assignments, is like if
Russell
If
Wilson.
you're a guy that needs to contain and you're pursuing, you single-handedly blew up the whole.
He
defensive play.
takes the bait too much.
No, taking the bait and biting is one thing. Not doing your job is a whole
Yeah,
nother
taking the
thing.
bait's failing your assignment.
No, it's not. Taking the bait is just being stupid. You're not the smartest person on the field. Choosing not to do your job is a whole nother thing.
So-
this is a Jadeveon Clowney argument. Jadeveon Clowney was pissed off last year because he didn't get to pursue. That wasn't his job. That's not why he came
You're
to
a
Cleveland.
run-stopping
He came to
edge.
Cleveland to stop the run on the strong side. That's why he came to Cleveland. This is an issue for
But
me
what
with
is
Will
an edge
McDonald.
position for? Containing the edge. Same thing as a cornerback.
Well,
But
it
the
depends
biggest-
on if
so
you're
the-
playing a 4-3 or 3-4.
He doesn't contain it well during runs. That's our biggest. That's what we're just talking about. Is
Right.
he doesn't. That's one thing he doesn't do well is he doesn't contain the edge well in a run. And you're going to put him as a strong side most likely with where you're drafting him. You're not going to put him on the weak side as a pass rusher because that's not where he excels. And he's
Right.
more of a. He's
That's
there.
scary.
He's a run stopper. It's exactly what KJ. He's more of a Jadeveon
Right.
guy.
Yeah. But if you can't forget your assignment, like I get you want to go get the quarterback, but if your best ability is to break the tackle and get to the run,
Yeah.
please do that.
Yeah.
Please do that because that's where you're going to excel. And with the running backs in this league right now, you need to the team that drafts you needs you to do that.
Yes.
Right.
So another guy I'd like to talk about real quick, if we have time, is Adebawar.
Adebawar.
So he is the opposite of Will McDonald. He is a pass rusher. That is him. He is a bowling ball.
And it's
he
hard.
Is a I mean, that's
before we
going to put on
before
the
we
weak
talk
side.
about it, we'll have the 4 or 5 honorable mentions. But before we get into that, here's the thing. Holy cow! Sorry.
You good?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Here's the thing with this, right? So we have top 10.
Yes.
But in reality, there's probably 20 of these guys that could be an impact on day one.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much depth at the college position in this position, outside linebacker, edge, D tackle. There's just so much depth here that it's really kind of hard to break this down to just 10 guys. Now, if we had to tier this, I would have to say, me and you would probably also agree on this, that our tier is Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, and Miles Murphy. Boom, that's our tier of one guys.
I agree with that. I'd like to have Luke Van Ness in there, but
I'll put Lucas Van Ness in there, but like you said, like sometimes Van Ness is one of those guys that could be an issue.
It just depends. Has he hit his ceiling in college?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, I don't think he has, but he might have.
And then our tier 2 guys would be like your Carl
Brooks.
Brooks, your Isaiah Foskey, your Zach Harrison, your Ojulari, your Nolan Smith. No. Take Nolan Smith out. Your Zach Harrison, BJ Ojulari, Isaiah Foskey, Carl Brooks. And then
tier 3.
Then I would go tier 3, which would be your Nolan Smith, Brenton Cox, Will McDonald, Drew Sanders, and Adebawar.
Yeah.
And Adebawar is one of the guys you want to talk about, and then the other guy that we need to probably talk about is Drew Sanders, because these Drew Sanders and Nolan Smith are probably going to be the top 2 linebackers in our mind taken off the board, and they probably round 1 and 2, and that's just because of the position. So like we might have Nolan Smith ranked lower, but because positional wise he could go higher because of the position need.
Yeah. So Adebawar is another guy who's great off the ball, speed. He has a wicked first step to get inside his man, able to to get his hands up and push through. He's not a guy who's going to slip through like a Myles Garrett or something like that. He's a bull rushing D end. He is the opposite of Will McDonald. You're going to put him on the weak side as a pass rusher.
He's a fighter too.
Yeah, he's a fighter. He's got great speed and strength. His hands are another top tier.
That's why I'm saying fighter. That's what I'm saying by fighter. When people understand fighting in a phone booth, like that, you're really good up in here, and he can get through that line with either his swim move or however he wants to do it. I just look like an idiot doing shit like this on camera.
He creates most of his pressures inside and can at times get too aggressive pursuing and puts him out of position. Able to chase down a running back quickly as well, depending on where he's at. But so the reason why I have him 11th and going late second, early third is just because of the way he over pursues and puts himself out of position. He's a guy that, he makes some bad decisions. He's got good football IQ, but mentality wise, he could shore up a few things. Maybe you can teach that in training camp. Who knows? But at the end of the day, he's tier 3. He's probably top of the tier 3 for me. I'd take him over Will McDonald. I like Will McDonald, but I view him, like we said, more of an outside linebacker, like we kind of view Drew Sanders. Now, what did you like about Drew Sanders?
Speed. I think Drew Sanders has a speed to get to both sides of the field. This is, to me, you guys watch the film on most of these linebackers, and this is definitely Steve's favorite guy.
Yeah, I think the top 20 I watched film on.
Yeah, I think this is Steve's favorite guy at linebacker.
Yeah, Drew Sanders and Brenton Cox are Steve's. He loves him. So, I mean.
My issue with him is that he's a little undersized for the position as an edge. So, like, he is the prototypical outside linebacker. Yeah. But his intangible, which is his ability to find the ball.
Yeah, he's got a nose for it. Yeah. He led his team with 103 tackles this year. He loves contacts, hits the gap well, both in the run and the pass, can be used as a defensive lineman too in certain positions. Yeah. I think he would be an edge in a 4-3, but most teams now in the NFL run a 3-4 or 3-4.
If you had to pick a guy like in this draft, he would be your Micah Parsons on the team. Like, he is all over the field. He can hit the gaps. And now it's hard because I think teams, and I have to go back and watch some of the film on Micah, but I think teams are finding a way to scheme away from Micah. They're finding a way to hide Micah on the defense, and they're getting outside of that.
Because you're going to use a tight end to block.
But a lot of it could be that, because we've talked about Dallas's defense, is that it's it's a high rush defense.
Yeah,
and
they're
that
very
if,
risky.
if teams find a way to get around that, so all of these players are playing full pursuit, and if you can get around that,
Yeah.
none of these guys are going to show up on the field ever.
So there's
But
like
Johnny,
you said-
we got some news in from Twitter.